The Stanley Cup playoffs are starting to heat up. Disappointing teams, commanding series leads, dramatic finishes, and some upsets that will leave you wanting even more hockey. What's up and welcome back to the channel. The NHL playoffs have been incredible to start the year, and there's a ton of storylines that we need to get into over the past 48 hours. Gabe Landeskog returning to the Colorado Avalanche, the Minnesota Wild upsetting the Vegas Golden Knights yet again, or just maybe a few small things like the Toronto Maple Leafs taking care of business in back-to-back games. Today we're going to get into it all, so if you guys have been enjoying this style of content lately, be sure to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, let's get into all of these matchups. First game on our slate, we have the Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. And despite being a person who picked Montreal to win out in this series, it's getting harder and harder to not root for the Washington Capitals. Connor McMichael and Dylan Strome both score a goal within a minute, but the real story in this one was Logan Thompson. Washington did a great job picking up free agents, but Thompson has been arguably their best pickup in a very long time. He had a spectacular night, 25 saves, some really big time ones to add to this win for the Capitals, as they take a 2-0 series lead against Montreal going over to the Bell Center. For Montreal fans, you shouldn't be down at all. Montreal has been hanging in there with Washington in both of their first two games, and maybe there'll be a bit of a bump with them going back home, so keep an eye on this series. I think it's going to go a little bit further than just a sweep, but Montreal is in a must-win position as they go to Game 3. Game 2 on our slate, we have the Dallas Stars versus the Colorado Avalanche, and the biggest storyline heading into this one was the return of Captain Gabriel Landeskog, who has not played a game in over 1,032 days for the Avalanche. He became the 5th player in NHL history, a minimum of 700 games played, to return to their team after 1,000 or more days without a contest. Congrats to Gabe Landeskog. It was a huge night for him, and the fans really showed up and showed out. Unfortunately for the Avalanche, though, it was Tyler Seguin who would spoil this return with an overtime goal off a slick feed from Mason Marchment, who, by the way, in the final 4 minutes of regulation, took a high stick to Brock Nelson, so it's nice to see him have a redemption play after nearly blowing this for Dallas. But on the other side, we had Jamie Benn having a tying goal for Dallas midway through the third, and Jake Ottinger stopping 27 shots in a series that a lot of people have been favoring Colorado in because of all of Dallas's injuries. Valerie Nichushkin would be the only goal scorer for Colorado on the night, and Mackenzie Blackwood put up a solid performance with 26 saves. But a big storyline coming out of this one was the Avalanche's power play, who finished 0 for 6 on the night, so that needs to be cleaned up if they want any chance of beating Dallas in this series. Final game of our first night in hockey, we have the LA Kings versus the Edmonton Oilers coming off that insane thriller in their Game 1 matchup. Again, this is the 4th consecutive year that the Kings and Oilers are competing against each other, but this time around, the Kings seem to look like the more dominant team. Adrian Kempe had 2 third-period goals and 2 assists. How you doing? Just an underrated player for this Kings team. Captain Anze Kopitar would have a goal and 3 assists, showing that he has no signs of aging. And they beat down the Oilers 6-2 with an additional goal from Byfield and Kuzmenko, with Brandt Clark getting his first playoff goal of his career in an overwhelming performance by the Los Angeles Kings. As for the Edmonton Oilers, their goaltending woes continue. They allowed 2 straight 6-goal games against the Kings on the road, and in this one, Calvin Pickard would have to replace Stuart Skinner, only to be scored on 90 seconds after entering the game. The only Edmonton goal scorers were Leon Draisaitl, who redirected a nifty pass from John Klingberg, and Ardvinsson, who would score on his former team with 15:55 to play to try and tighten things up, but it was the LA Kings who stayed strong in this one, continuing with their fantastic home record. Second night of hockey, and we have the Florida Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning in their Game 2 of this series. Defenseman Nate Schmidt would score the game winner again, a beautiful goal off the point to get by Andrei Vasilevsky. But the biggest storyline coming out for the Panthers is when Alexander Barkov took a monster hit from Brandon Hagel. Barkov would leave halfway through the third and didn't return to the ice, so hopefully we can see him back and healthy. But a lot of people would like to see a suspension for Hagel. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but let me know what you guys think about this hit in the comments. As for the Tampa Bay Lightning, they couldn't develop any offense in this game, and Sergei Bobrovsky stood strong to prevent them from getting a win in their own home barn. The series is shifting back to Florida. We'll hope that this could be a more competitive series, and hopefully Barkov will be healthy, but as of now, the Florida Panthers are proving why they are still the Stanley Cup champs. Game 2 of the night, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Ottawa Senators, with the Sens playing in their home barn for the first time of this year's playoffs. Austin Matthews would have a goal and an assist on the night. He was a beast defensively and finally got himself involved in this series, winning the majority of his face-off draws. Matthew Knies would also score for the Leafs, and Stolarz made 18 saves for his 11th straight victory dating back to March 20th. That one was a tongue twister, but my point here is saying that Anthony Stolarz has been a beast. Benoit would be the OT hero in this one as he received an amazing pass from Austin Matthews off the draw to rip one past Linus Ullmark. As for the Ottawa Senators, they had a great game yet again through 5v5 play, but unfortunately they just couldn't close this out. This is likely due to their inexperience, which is what a lot of people are talking about when it comes to this team. Claude Giroux had a goal and an assist, Brady Tkachuk had the tying goal, and Linus Ullmark stopped 17 shots, but it wasn't enough to close out the Leafs at home as they take a commanding 3-0 series lead, looking for the sweep in Game 4. Game 3 of the Winnipeg Jets versus St. Louis Blues as the Jets look to take complete control of this series in their first road game, but the St. Louis Blues, they responded big time, winning this game 7-2 and having Connor Hellebuyck get pulled. Now in the first 5 minutes, the St. Louis Blues had a 2-0 lead and the Winnipeg Jets hadn't even recorded a shot. At home, the Blues were just dominant in this one, taking advantage of all of their mismatches, winning more battles, forechecking relentlessly, and the Jets, they just looked lifeless. Cam Fowler had a monster game with a goal and 4 assists. Jordan Kyrou and Colton Parayko also scored, and Robert Thomas had 3 apples on the night, with all of the Blues stars showing up and showing out. And hey, don't forget Jordan Binnington, who had a solid performance with 17 saves against the Jets. But the real first star of this game is Pavel Buchnevich, who had a hat trick and an assist on the night to help lead the St. Louis Blues to victory. As for Winnipeg, they only got goals from Gustafsson and Pionk, but unfortunately it just wasn't good enough. Connor Hellebuyck gave up 6 goals on 25 shots before being pulled midway through the third, with Eric Comrie stopping 2 of his 3 shots that he faced. Game 4 is in St. Louis on Sunday with Game 5 in Winnipeg on Wednesday, but this series just got a little bit more interesting with the Blues finally getting on the board. Final game of our recap, we have the Minnesota Wild facing off against the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 3 of this series as it shifts over to Minnesota. For the Wild, they've been getting a ton of production from their stars. They had a pair of goals from Kirill Kaprizov in this one, and Matt Boldy also potted his 4th of the series. On the flip side of things, while the Minnesota Wild stars continue to light the lamp, Golden Knights star Jack Eichel, who set the record for the most points in a regular season for the Golden Knights in their franchise's history with 94, has yet to register a single point in the playoffs this year. Philip Gustafsson had a fantastic night making 30 saves, but the real story is Kirill Kaprizov, who continues to be one of the more dominant players in the NHL now that he's healthy. Vegas tried to claw back in this one, and while they did show some life, I don't think a lot of people expected the Minnesota Wild to have this great of a performance in their Game 3 efforts. Game 4 is set for Saturday as we continue to stay in Minnesota. It's going to be a big game for Vegas as they try to even out this series, and for the Minnesota Wild, if they can go up 3-1, they may just have themselves a big upset in the first round. But let me know what you guys think about all of these series. Who's been the biggest disappointment? Who's your biggest surprise? I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Thank you guys as always for watching this video. Another recap will be coming out in just 2 days. So if you want to make sure you don't miss anything, give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next episode.